It's time to finally leave the bad sentiment behind us together with 2024. So, welcome to the Fomo Factory. If you are looking for realistic hopium, then this is the video you need to watch because the altcoin market is totally ready for it, and the last disbelievers are getting a little quiet right now. They start to maybe realize the fact that the cycles are still fully intact. And I want to show in this video what I am looking at and why I am so bullish, having all my children's savings in maybe I shouldn't say that, why I am really bullish. So like the video if you feel like I'm gonna like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on so you don't miss anything, and let's get right into the content. So 2024 was a year for people where they again had a little hopium and it got slapped back down. Hopium slapped back down. Hope slapped back down. Right? That's kind of what 2024 was. Now I want to look at 2024 and I want to set the emotions aside and just look like, was this time different? Do we have actually valid reasons to believe that 2025 is not going to offer us a great altcoin run? So let's look at that. I hope you have your popcorn ready or whatever you eat during the holidays, pigs or I don't know, man. No idea. Merry Christmas, by the way. Happy holidays, and let's get into it. So if we look what Bitcoin did first, right? Let's take a look at Bitcoin on the yearly to just get an idea like, hey, how did it go so far? And this is all assuming, right, that Bitcoin is gonna close around where it is right now, not eventually at 70K or 120K or whatsoever. However, everything is possible, you know what I mean? So, but let's assume, right? This year, Bitcoin from opening until where we are right now, we are up 127%, which is a pretty decent amount for Bitcoin, of course, especially considering that it's now, of course, a super high cap asset. Now, I want to look at 4 years cycles in this video again, because again, I think that that's the most valuable if you want to learn anything about crypto, to learn about the cycles, the money flow, and for the money flow, etc., and more macro, I would suggest you look at Money ZG is his YouTube account. You can learn a lot from it. But I am mainly focused on the cycles, and very quickly. Why? Because, well, simply when I did not do that in the past, I got wrecked, and since I started to do that, I made a lot of money, right? And the 4 year cycles are so far until the day of today intact. So why not next year, right? Now, again, this year, Bitcoin up 127%. That's decent. Now, what happened in 2020? 2020, Bitcoin was up 300%. Okay, so 300% was a pretty decent amount. It's also because the year before that was up 94%, right? So it had to compensate a little bit. I mean, last year, Bitcoin was up 155%. So we had a better pre-halving year this cycle, right, than we did last cycle. So it kind of compensates. Now, if we look at 2016, Bitcoin was up 126%. Pretty much the same as right now. So that's already showing like, hey, this cycle so far is pretty comparable to 2016, right? And there are more reasons to believe why we are quite doing what the 2016-17 cycle did. And for the people that weren't around back then or haven't really looked at these charts, that's good, right? The 2016-17 cycle was a sick-ass cycle. It was really bullish. And if you look at the ROI from the bottom and we take a look at Bitcoin now compared to the last cycle, 2020-21, you can see that, okay, from the beginning until where we are right now, it is quite following it. However, there were a lot of differences in between, right? I think that the beginning of the cycles until the end of it are always, pretty much the same, especially when it comes to time, right? When Bitcoin tops, when Bitcoin bottoms, when we get an alt season, when this, when that. However, how it moves in between is always different, of course, right? Here we were really lagging compared to 2020, right? You can see that Bitcoin was here already sitting at a 4x from the bottom, but in this cycle it was 1.6x, right? So there you could have said like, wow, it's so different. This cycle is so broken, right? These are the emotions that people have. However, not much later, we were outperforming that cycle. And eventually we got right on track. And now we again are a little underperforming. So it's always like zigzagging around. Now, what I find interesting is that if you compare this cycle so far to 2016-17, then this is what you see. And this is, of course, we also had small differences here and there, but really following it really decently. Right now, again, that's not that we are also going to do 100x from the bottom. That would put Bitcoin at around $1.5 million now from where the year opened. Well, no, from the cycle low. So $1.5 million. Look, it's crypto. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I wouldn't bet on it. However, it's so far really, really, really following it really well. Now, this will stop at a certain point, right? It could be that we go up here, maybe up here, wherever somewhere, and then that's it. Goes sideways, right? I mean, if you compare the last cycle, eventually it depacked, kind of, right? And it just went sideways because diminishing returns. Nevertheless, we are really following the 2016-17 cycle so far pretty well. And that's a real bullish sign. Now, when it comes to retail, because I know you listen to this and be like, Bitcoin? I know I should have invested in that earlier, but I'm not investing in it right now, as you should, in my opinion. It was a long time for Bitcoin when people did not like, people were bullish in altcoins, right? Like they are going to make more gains. And they should have been in Bitcoin. And now it's the other way around. Now, what's the point of investing in Bitcoin? Right before the alt season year. And now there are, of course, a lot of people saying altcoins are not going to do it anymore. It's broken. It's different. It's this. It's that. And yeah, then they are going to get wrecked, of course. So what do we need for an alt season? Well, we need retail, mainly, right? Is there a lot of retail right now? YouTube viewers, subscribers? It's not a lot, right? It's not a lot. However, is it different from the last cycles? Was this cycle this year so far, was it that different? Yeah, like we are now here, right? If you look at December 2020, that's here, right? This point. We were sitting slightly higher than where we are right now, right? Slightly. If you look at December 2016, that was anywhere here, right? Slightly lower than where we are right now. So when it comes to the retail inflow, we are now sitting nicely in the middle. So when it comes to this, then you could easily say like, yeah, it's not that different actually, right? Now, one chart again that I think is the most important chart you can look at right now is not necessarily Bitcoin. It's not necessarily the altcoin chart, right? Although this is an interesting chart, I'll come back to that. But it's altcoins on their Bitcoin pair, because again, what's an alt season? It's where altcoins outperform Bitcoin. So there is a chart that shows that. And it's not necessarily the Bitcoin dominance, because if a lot of money goes from Bitcoin into USDT, then the dominance also goes down, right? What you want to see is altcoins collectively, or your specific altcoin, but that's not making an alt season or not, right? So altcoins collectively on their Bitcoin pair sitting at a good place right now. Is that the case? Well, if we look at this chart, then this is where we are, right? And I've showed this chart many times. And every time I get a couple comments from people that say that, no, this time is different, right? But then again, if we look at these charts, is it? Right now, what is different this time and what makes this cycle a little hard for some people, which makes them disbelieve this stage right now, is the fact that this was a slow grind down for altcoins, right? Here, altcoins, they got slapped down really fast on their Bitcoin pair, right? We basically from the top here, went down, one bounce, bottom. What we did in this cycle is down, hopium, down, hopium, down, hopium, down, hopium, right? That makes people think that this time is not gonna do it for altcoins. However, at the end of the day, if you look at this top right here, until alt season started, it took about 1,078 days, right? Something like that. Depends on how accurate I draw this line right now, but around that, right? So that's how long it eventually took. Yeah, if you look from the current top until where we are right now, we are sitting at the exact same time, right? So if you look at this cycle compared to the last cycle, is it different? Not by a cent, right? It's completely the same actually, right? And again, the road from A to Z, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, right? But eventually we always go from there to there. But however we get the way that we get there, that somehow defines for a lot of people if we are going to get there. Well, that should not be the case, right? And that's what's making what makes this cycle for a lot of people a lot harder. On the Bitcoin dominance chart, you can see it really well, right? This time in this cycle, it was pretty much up only for the Bitcoin dominance, right? Of course, you have these small moves down, but overall, it was pretty much up only, right? So that means that altcoins just got wrecked against Bitcoin, right? From the high. However, or from the bottom. If you look at the last cycle, yeah, I mean, again, it took the same amount of time, but the road towards it was just different, right? We went up and then we had a mini alt season kind of thing. We went up, altcoins completely wrecked. Very slow, boring period where altcoins outperformed a little bit, but no spectacular moves, right? Up, little altcoin outperformance, and then up, wrecked again. And then for a real long period, altcoins outperformed, but not by much. And then they got completely wrecked again. And by this time, people didn't believe in alt season anymore, right? And then we got a fat alt season, of course, right? That's how it works. We have to have the disbelievers. So again, this time it's just more steadily up, right? That doesn't mean that we are never going down on the Bitcoin dominance again, right? Again, the road towards it, that's different. That's different. But the destination is the same. So if I look at these kind of things, I feel like, man, 2024 was a year that made a lot of people, it put a lot of people in the disbelief stage. And again, we do need that, right? You cannot, and I said it in the last video, and I think it's an important kind of quote, you cannot sit at the bottom on an asset or whatever and have the most comfortable feeling as well. It's either the one or the other, right? You either have a great feeling about everything, but you're sitting at the top somewhere, or you have a terrible feeling that it's never going up, and then you're sitting at the bottom. You cannot have the bottom, and everybody feels like, wow, what a great time, right? It's actually the same, and it's all going up again. Now, of course, you have to have often newer people that look at that and be like, ugh, it's all different. Still, if I look at these charts, then I don't see what's different, right? And of course, we can put narratives on it, right? Like, well, we now have ETFs, and they're not going to put that money into Bitcoin, right? But then if that has such a massive impact, then why are we sitting at the exact same place in the exact same time of that cycle again, right? Plus, it's only 5% of Bitcoin's money. It's not that that's able to cancel a complete alt season, right? That's not what it is. So if I look at this, then yeah, there are a lot of people now still that say like, well, yeah, alt season is not going to happen, right? And I just look like, okay, but when did alt season start? Yeah, here it started like, it depends what you define as the start, right? I see this bottom at this trend line as the start, right? Here it started like last week of December, like where we are right now, right? So if we do exactly what the last cycle did, yeah, then this week it should start. However, we were already sitting here, right? So it either already started or we have one more move to the downside before it starts. Because if you look at 2016-17, what we did right there is we went to the trend line and we kind of went sideways from mid-December until end of February, 2.5 months, right? We didn't do anything. And then alt season really started. So it's also possible, you know, based on the last two cycles. I mean, this cycle can do something different than the last two, of course, but it's also possible that we will be in this area right here for another like 2 months. And then alt season starts. Should we care? The only reason why that might bother you is because this area right here makes you believe that it won't happen. Right? But again, if you look at this chart, right? Again, up is alt season, down is Bitcoin season. When was the ultimate time, twice in crypto's history, right, to step into altcoins right before the alt season started? Was here and it was here. And now we happen to be there, right? So there are two ways to look at this. You can look at this and be like, oh, we're so low, it's over, and screw alt season. Okay, cool. You might be right. On the other hand, you can also look at this like, wow, in full crypto's history, we just had this opportunity twice, exactly at this level. What a complete idiot am I going to be? Sorry for putting it like that. But if I am not going to step in right now, because in a couple months, I will look back and we are here somewhere, and I'll be like, why? This was so obvious. Why didn't I do anything with this? And that's how I look at it. That's how I like to look at this. Right? Because again, crypto is so far showing us like, hey, this is cyclical as hell. Right? And if it is all that cyclical, if every chart is moving the same, and there is not much reason for me to look at this chart and be like, wow, this is also the same, but from now on, it's going to be like, huh? That's making the least amount of sense, right? So far, the cycle is doing very cycle-ass things. Right? And in that case, we have a great opportunity coming. Now, we need two things right now. We need two things. Again, we need the full cycle to be intact for at least half a year, right? As long as crypto exists like 15 years or so, we need, and everything being the same, we need just that to continue for another half a year. Well, these odds are pretty much in your favor. And then what happens? Then it means that we're going up right here, right? Altcoins outperform Bitcoin. However, you won't notice that on your dollar amount if Bitcoin is crashing. So we also need Bitcoin not to crash, right? And with not crashing, I mean go into a full bear market, right? Because even Bitcoin is at 70K and altcoins on their Bitcoin pair outperform, altcoins on the dollar pair still do fine. Because here, this was Bitcoin going from 30K to 70K, right? If you overlay Bitcoin, you can see that. Bitcoin here kind of went from, you see it here, right? Bitcoin kind of went from 27K to the top 70, right? But with Bitcoin at 70K was enough for altcoins to explode, while altcoins went up a little bit against Bitcoin. Because if you look at this period, first quarter of 2024, basically, this is what the altcoin market did, right? So again, even if Bitcoin goes down to 70K, then we will still have a very good time in the altcoin market. So that's what we need. We need the cycle not to suddenly somehow completely change in the next couple of months. Well, that's highly unlikely that happens. So it is highly likely that Q1 is going to be crazy for altcoins. Again, 2024 may have felt for a lot of people like it was different, because the road from A to Z was, but eventually we went from A to Z just like we did in the last cycles. So therefore, I am still super bullish on the altcoin market. And again, I made a video once on this whole channel. I have said alt season has started. Well, let me be clear. That could have been technically a wrong call. Again, why? Well, because I said it here. Alt season has started. When are we allowed to say that alt season started? Look, I mean, if we now do this and this, or if we now do this or this, right? These are kind of the three outcomes that are likely, right? Eventually we will go there. Yeah, as alt season started as soon as we are here, or here, or actually at the bottom. This the call that I made could still be right in that case, unless we go down to that trend line. At the end of the day, does it matter, right? Like, I know I've been saying like, hey, alt season end of 2024, beginning 2025 for 2 years now. Like, if it happens here or here, fuck that, right? Like, does it really matter? This area right here is where the moment should be to get into altcoins. Look, when could I happily say like, hey, I was completely wrong? If Q1 looks like this, right, and Q2 as well. Like if we do this, like if we obviously break this, and hey, might as well we go below it, break it, retest it, go down more, and then go up. Also fine, right? But if we just break this and don't go up in the next year, then that call was completely wrong, right? But it would be wrong to make that call as well, because you're, again, you know what they say, right? The trend is your friend until the end of the trend. There is no end of the trend right here. Matter of fact, it just showed us last month that it's still intact, right? So 2024 was not that different. Well, not that different. It wasn't really different, right? And of course, there are always moves that were different. But overall, I do think that 2025 is going to play out like 2021, 2017, 2000, maybe 13. I don't know. But if you look this year, altcoins on the Bitcoin pair went down 27%. Yeah, what's a little different this time, right? But maybe not even really that much, is that in 2020, 4 years ago, the altcoin market was up 1%, right? So now it's down, here it was up. Hey, opposites, right? Then again, like here we got a move of 380%. Here we got a move of 1000%. These were that's different compared to 1 or minus 20, right? But if you look at 1100, 400 basically, then 1 or minus 27 is barely a difference. It's barely a difference, right? So also, the halving year should not be, look, if you look back at this, what's minus 27% over a whole year? Well, the answer is me. Like, what's 1% over a whole year? Me. That's what the halving year is supposed to be for altcoins. Even this one was the best one ever, right? 120% up, right? In 2016. That was the best one ever. Then again, got followed by 1100%, right? It's like not that spectacular. Also, the year before that, it went down 53%. So it had to compensate a little for that. Like last year, we did not go down 53%, right? Last year, we went up 8%, actually. So it is moving like it's supposed to move. So what in that case can we expect for 2025? Oh, that's hard. I mean, that's predicting, of course, and predicting in crypto is always going to be wrong. However, what I do expect, and I've showed this a couple times earlier, and I think that, this is hopeful. Well, this is not even hopeful. This is just being bullish like we supposed to be in this period, right? If you look at the quarterly chart for the altcoin dominance, right? And altcoin dominance is basically the same chart as I just showed. If altcoins dominate, right, compared to anything else, stables, Bitcoin, whatever, that's alt season, right? Now, if you look at this chart, when were the most bullish quarters ever? Obviously this one. It happened to be Q1 of the post-halving year, right? And this one right here, that was Q1 of the post-halving year. Q1 of the post-halving year is now coming, right? Now, here it went up with 180%. And a month later, it went up with another 100%, by the way. That was insane. Here, it went up with 90%, right? And then with a slow 4%, then with a 10%, then with a 22%. Compounding, crazy, crazy returns though, right? Will we see this 90% or 180% again? Look, it's well within the range, right? If we take it from here, 90% will take it around this level, and 180% will take it to the top of this range, actually, right? So, hey, it's not even unrealistic. And I mean, this is altcoins on the Bitcoin pair. It has nothing to do with dollars, right? So diminishing returns are not even relevant here. However, I mean, before this quarter, we saw a fat red quarter, minus 36. Before this bullish quarter, we saw a fat red quarter, minus 32, right? Before this coming quarter, we did not, so far at least, depends on what happens the coming days, but we did not see a fat red quarter, right? So far, altcoins this month have outperformed Bitcoin by 5%, or the rest of the crypto market, basically, right? So, of course, it has less to compensate for, probably. Nevertheless, I think that Q1, based on what we see right here, how Q1s behave, is likely to do very well, right? And it could be that January sucks, but that like February and March compensate for that, right? And after that, based on this, it should not even be over, because this is a parallel channel that we are in, right? And the beautiful thing about this parallel channel is, one, it goes back to at least 2017, right, where we got into it. But you can also say that, hey, here, look at this resistance right here, which lines up perfectly, was in 2014. So this thing has been intact for 10 years, right? That's a trend, right? That's a trend that you can trust on. And we just had a confirmation because we went all the way exactly. Yeah, you can see because I have drawing right there. Look at this. We retested the lower side of it perfectly, right? So we also have the confirmation that after 10 years, it is still intact. Now that's good, because in every bull market, we get also to the top of the range. And therefore, I feel like 2025, that's one of the reasons why 2025 for the altcoin market is going to be insane. Right? Because if we get to the top again, and you might listen to this like, well, that's hopeful thinking, wishful thinking. Actually, of course, it is a little bit, but on the other hand, it's also, if you think it won't happen, then you are betting against a 10-year-old trend, which just this month or this quarter has confirmed that it's still active and trending, right? So it's also like, yeah, well, I mean, here you go. It's the most logical outcome, right? Doesn't mean that it has to happen, but it's the best thing to bet on, right? So in that case, it could go to 30%. Yeah, I mean, if we take 30% of the current crypto market already of that more than $3 trillion, that's well over $1 trillion for the altcoin market, right? Now it's sitting at 350. That's twice above the previous all-time high. I sign up, man. Now, to wrap it up about the altcoin market, if you look at the altcoin market on the dollar pair, because I'm talking a lot about altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, and although that's far more important, of course, right? Altcoins on the dollar pair, they matter. But again, if this thing goes up a little bit, or the altcoin dominance goes up a little bit while Bitcoin is sitting at 100K, altcoins on the dollar pair explode, okay? However, altcoins on the dollar pair, look, I've drawn this, and I was kind of surprised, like, whoa, this is quite accurate, right? If you take this from the low right here in 2018, kind of retest, yeah, we had COVID, fucked it all up, right? But we retested right here, we retested right here, we retested right here. That's more than a trend, right? But the upside as well, we had it right here in 2018, with a lot of support here in the peak bull, basically, of the last bull market. We went below it, bear market. Then in this market right now, where we are in, we tested it as support, got rejected exactly at that level, went down, tried again, got rejected exactly at that level again, right? So if anything, then this whole area right here is where altcoins are nice, but not in the complete banana zone yet, right? Here as well, nice, but not in the complete banana zone yet. Once we went above this, it kind of went vertical, really vertical, right? So we have a lot of resistance right here because the horizontal of the previous all-time high also comes in right there. But once, not if, but once we break that, I think we can look at the next level, right? Because that's this all-time high, kinda, with this all-time high. And depending on when we get there, but again, most likely outcome around the end of next year, is sitting around $3 trillion. $3 trillion. Well, combine that with the fact that I said altcoins outperform or dominate with 30%, means that the whole crypto market, if that math has to connect with each other, has to go to around $9 trillion. Well, I mean, the whole market right now is sitting at 3.2 trillion. That's almost a 3x from this point, right? Yeah, is the total crypto market known for 3xing in the post-halving year? Well, I mean, let's put it on the yearly. And in 2021, it went from 700 billion to 3 trillion. That's way more than a 3x. And in 2017, yeah, let's not even talk about that, right? Like, we're not going to see those returns again, 32x, right? So even if we now, so if we go to that 9 trillion, that is already diminishing, right? That's really diminishing, actually. And 9 trillion comes in with the 3.618. And the 3.618, if you look at earlier markets, you will find that level hit in any stage of the market. So it makes kind of sense. Now, again, there are people that say like, well, but what about the 10-year yield or a potential recession or the war, whatever? Like, news has never stopped the cycle from doing cycle things. So I like, hey, look, at a certain point we will get into a bear market, and that will be the point where people don't believe that we will get into a bear market, of course. But at a certain point we will. And look, people have been calling, for example, for a recession for a long time. What's my theory actually is maybe we will get the recession by the end of 2025. Then we will get into a bear market. And then, of course, you will have people saying like, well, we only go down because there's a recession. Nah, we only go down because that's always where we go down. And it happens to be that that's the news that makes sure that it happens, right? But it's always charts first, news comes after, really. And that was such an important lesson for me to learn. And again, once I started to apply that, I started to print money. So that's about the market. Now, how to position, I don't want to make like I can do that in another video. And let me actually do that so I can spread it out a little bit. There's a lot of hectic going on right now. We have these holidays. It was my birthday, my daughter's birthday coming up. We had a national holiday here as well. So I don't have a lot of time, and I want to be here every day on this channel. No breaks, like a bad car. I don't know. So that's for the next video. For now, this is not, you haven't seen a thing in this video that's out of the realistic, that's pure moonboy shit or a hopium. It's just, this is what we honestly can expect for next year. And a lot of people in crypto will get wrecked, right? And I honestly think that the most people in crypto will get wrecked are the people that say like, well, it won't happen. Good luck, bro. Maybe you are right, but you are betting against literally every indicator, chart, piece of history, everything out there, right? And these will be the people that will get left behind. They have to wait a full cycle, and they will probably mess it up again, right? Don't be that. Don't be that person. This is the time, historically speaking, to be, especially in the altcoin market. And in the next cycle, I'm not gonna lie, you won't hear me talk about altcoins a lot, because if I would have shut the hell up about altcoins until the day of today, we would have done fine as well, right? It happens to be that at least I talked about some launch pads, and I completely made a lot of money thanks to launch pads and some other things. But overall, there's a lot of risk to it, right? And again, if you look at altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, then hey, quite close to the bottom right now, right? So not being in altcoins this whole time was kind of worth it. And that's how I'm gonna apply it in the next cycle for even longer and longer and longer. And that doesn't mean you cannot make money, right? Because if you would have bought Bitcoin, let's say at the bottom, which you want time, right? But if you bought Bitcoin there and you looked at the top, it did a 7x. You would have made a 7x from the end of 2022 until the end in 2 years, right? A 7x in 2 years with the most safe asset. You didn't have to fuck around with any of these extremely risky altcoins or meme coins or whatsoever. Nothing like that. Just Bitcoin. You could have said so comfortable because you know Bitcoin is not going away. There's not an altcoin you can say the same about, right? You would have made a 7x so far, right? And Bitcoin is going higher than this. So, but that's for next cycle. Want to wrap it up right here. Guys, if you like the video, like the video. Don't forget to check out the Alpha Factory exclusive Discord down below. You get a 3 days free trial. So be there, talk to me, plan calls with me, look at my portfolio, do whatever the hell. It's a lot of stuff there. If you don't like it after 3 days, you can get out. Get out. You don't have to pay for it, doesn't matter. I will make sure that you are honestly there because it's worth it. So that's it for today. Take care.